Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the Storm Collectibles Golden Axe TYRIS Flare. You guys asked for more Golden Axe reviews. I'm obliging. We already reviewed Axe Battler, the main guy. Now we have the lady, who is most people's favorite character, not because of her bikini, but because of her magic powers, but also the skin. And I will be reviewing the dwarf as well, so make sure you stick around for that. And just for those of you who haven't heard this, Storm Collectibles are now officially exclusively sold at Big Bad Toy Store in the US as far as online sales go. For anything going forward, it's going to be at Big Bad Toy Store only, so you can use that link in the description below and you'll be able to get the Storm figures you want there. These figures are super fun figures. They aren't perfect, they have some flaws, and I will go over that of course, but these things are very fun and they do have a lot of good stuff too. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. Okay, now before we get into the review, I want to mention, just like I did for the other guy, she has orangish hair here, and on here she has blonde hair, but that's because the artwork for the game, it didn't really match the game sprites. The sprite matches the figure, or the figure matches the sprite more so than the artwork. So you do get the artwork there if you're nostalgic, if that's nostalgic for you, but this does match the game more, so that's why they did it that way, and I'm okay with that. Okay, before we get into anything else, let's do a quick question of the day. I have to remember to do a measurement. Don't let me forget to do a measurement. Okay, who was your favorite character? Was it Axe Battler, TYRIS Flare, or what's his name? Gilius Thunderhead, I believe was the dwarf's name. Which one did you prefer? I always played as the main guy because I didn't know better. I barely played this game. My cousin had it. I didn't own it, but I loved it. But I didn't know anything about it, so I always picked the main guy, or the guy, like the archetypal hero guy. Okay, height measurement, I didn't forget, thanks for reminding me. This figure stands just about 18.5 centimeters. That makes it just about 7.25 inches. For a height comparison, here she is against archetypal hero guy right there, and here they are against archetypal perverts. I was going to make another comment that I can't make or YouTube will kick me off, and here is a height comparison against a rival Collectibles transparent ninja prototype. Okay, there we go. Very good size comparisons. Let's talk about the aesthetic. The thing that stands out most to me is not that she's in a very skimpy bikini and fighting bad guys, because he is also. You want to talk about like, women never have enough armor, they're always so scantily clad. Look at this guy, he's got less covering him. Nobody complains about that. It's okay for him to be naked. It's okay for her too. Kudos to the dwarf for dressing appropriately. Dress for the job you want. Anyway, the thing I was going to say is they sculpted the abdominal section really well. Like, she's got very, very defined abs. And not very, very defined other muscles, really, which is a little bit strange. But the abs themselves do look really nice. I would like to see a little bit more musculature throughout. Storm does tend to do that for their ladies, I guess to avoid making them look too masculine. But like, look at the muscle detail in this guy. Not the size of the muscles, but all the detail. He's got quite defined muscles. Hers are a lot less defined. So it's a little bit strange to have such good abs and nothing else, but it still looks pretty good. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot going on. There is shading throughout the skin. That's nice. It's a good skin tone. It does make him look a little orange. I don't remember if that's accurate, if they are supposed to have different skin tones or not, but he does. He's very tan compared to her. She's a little bit on the pink side, but her bikini thing is sculpted on, and they did a pretty good job with painting it. It's not perfect, but it looks all right. I'd say they did a good job with that. And then the face, it's painted really well, and it's sculpted pretty well, and the hair is okay. So there's not a whole lot to talk about. I guess we could do a cake rating for those of you who are wondering. Like, we only do that for McFarlane, but she is a lady in a bikini, so we might as well. It's not great. She's got a wide cake, but not. There's a little bit of curvature to the cake, but the cake is not well defined. It's much like the rest of her musculature, which is, it's okay. She's more CrossFit than bodybuilder, I would say. Okay, so aesthetically speaking, I will give it an 8. It's pretty good. There are some things I would definitely change, though, mostly being the musculature being more consistent. All right, let's talk about the accessories, because that's where these figures really shine. We have the normal head that comes on her in the package. Then we have the angry head, and both are painted really nicely. The angry head has different hair. It's like windswept. You can swap the hairs out for either face, so she can have a calm face with windswept hair, and it looks fine. Or vice versa, so that's a really cool feature. As far as hands go, we have the 2 fist hands, we have 2 gripping hands, we have 2 pointing finger hands. We have 2 kind of style pose hands, and then another 2 style pose hands. So that's a good batch of hands. We do get her sword, which is very nicely done. Love that gold detail on there. Exquisite. There's a little bit of texture to the metal also. I mean, it's not metal, it's plastic made to look metal. But that texture on the blade of the sword and around the hilt, love that. And then we get her dragon, which is a blue and green version of the other guy's dragon. It is the same dragon otherwise. There might be a different detail in the face, but I don't think so. I think they're all the same. And it's the exact same, so check out that review up there if you want to. They are selling the dragons alone right now in Big Bad Toy Store. They have a gold one and a black one, and so that's a very cool thing. If you need more dragons, you can get those. And then the last thing is the fire effect for the dragon, which I love. That's very cool. I guess technically you could give it to the lady also. It's decent height for that, but it is a breathing fire effect for the dragon, and it looks really, really nice. I love that Storm always gives us some effect parts. That's very, very cool. So that's awesome. So accessory wise, 9 out of 10. I don't know that there's a whole lot more they could do other than give us some more things from the game, you know, more items or whatever else that falls on the ground. I don't really remember, but I think I know that does happen, so that's cool. Okay, let's talk about the articulation once we get the dragon's shadow out of the way. Alright, so the head is like all other Storm figures. It's on a double ball peg. Her ball peg is very tiny. For most Storm figures, the top ball peg doesn't function as a ball peg, it just functions as a straight peg, but then it does peg down into the skeleton and the whole thing can move so that the neck leans, which is pretty cool. But on this one, it's kind of hard to get that to move on its own. It does work, it's just a little tricky because her torso is so small, it's so short that it tends to just move that other ball peg when you're trying to pose the neck. So that's a little bit annoying. We'll get to that in a second though. So the neck is okay, but mostly you're going to be moving the head around just on that top peg and not using that lower one in the torso. For the arms, they connect on a ball peg just like all the Storm figures, so that moves around in there. Again, there's some weirdness with her torso because it's so short. I think they ran into a few problems. You know what? Let's leave the head off for now. The hair will get in the way. Nothing they can do about that. But I want to talk about the articulation. So you can raise the arms up very nicely. Obviously, full rotation. These joints are buttery smooth, by the way. Storm really did a good job on this batch. So it moves around front to back a little bit. These caps float around to fill in the gaps. But on this one, they don't have that much range to... Well, this one is, and this one's not. So it's very finicky because it's such a tiny piece. The way Storm does it, it makes it rather tricky. But you do get your double ball peg in there. I think one of the problems is the floating piece tends to ride up on the figure, and then it gets in the way of other things. So like this technically works, this capped piece, but then it moves this. It's just a pain in the butt. So you're gonna, it's okay, but you're gonna be constantly readjusting it because I don't think the top soft piece where the boobages in the back is, I don't think that comes down low enough. And then when you pose it, there's gonna be gapping and weirdness. But you do get decent range out of it, especially side to side. I'm holding this part up right now so you can see, by the way. It's not going to look that bad normally. But it does go side to side well, but forward and back it's pretty limited. And like I said, you will have to readjust this piece a lot. It's a pain in the butt. It really needs to sit much lower overall. It's a pain. It's a big pain. I've been messing with it. Every time I pose this figure, I have to resituate things. So it's a big nuisance. Once you pose it, it looks good, but some people hate the floating chest. That's one of the reasons why, especially on the smaller figure here. Anyway, bicep swivel is tight, but it does work. Single jointed elbow gives you just better than 90 degrees. Not ideal, but it's okay, and you do get more swivel out of that. And then the wrists are on a ball hinge, which is appropriate. You already saw how much the torso moves around. It's a big pain in the butt. Lower torso leans back that far, which isn't a whole lot. It leans forward that far, which isn't a whole lot. Again, they have very narrow margins, narrow gaps to pose this thing. It does lean side to side. It's okay. It's not going to give you a ton of range. Her legs go out to the side. They're kind of loose. Like, she's a lightweight figure, so it's not going to be a huge deal, but they are pretty loose. But they go out to the side all the way. So that's pretty good. Going forward, the diaper piece stretches a little bit and the body gets in the way a little bit, but you can bring the legs forward. That's okay. Going back, they do go back. The butt stretches a little bit, so that's okay. And then thigh swivel it's there. It's not the best, but it will do. I think they just kind of shot themselves in the foot, or at least I guess not really, because what are you going to do? It's the character design. But I was going to say, by choosing a character with no clothes to hide the articulation, I think it's acceptable. There should just be more plastic to the back so that it comes down a little farther to the rib cage rather than being split. They were trying to hide the joint with the bikini line, but there's not enough material there, plastic-wise. So I think what they should have done is just gone with the rib cage instead. A lot of people like to articulate under the boobs because it hides the joint, but I like to go with the rib cage because it gives a more natural pose and it's easier to function properly because it's your natural curve. Anyway, it's okay, but it could have been done better. If they went with the rib cage, they went for the hidden look instead. That's up to you guys to decide how you feel about that. Double jointed knee works wonderfully, no problem at all there. There is no boot swivel. Oh, there is a boot swivel. It must have just been stuck when I was messing with it before, so that's cool. There is a boot swivel. Ankles go all the way back. And not very far forward, which sucks. Toe hinge is acceptably stiff and in the right place, so that's good. Ankle rocker is pretty crooked, but you do get the boot swivel, so that's pretty nice. Okay, articulation on this figure, other than the weirdness of having such a small section in the torso and everything, like, it sucks to mess with, but you can make it look good, and it does have good range. So I'm not going to be too harsh on it. I'll go 7. You could still get better range, and it could have been done a little bit smoother, I think. It's not bad, but it is finicky and could be a little bit better polished, I think. So, final verdict on this release. It's probably not quite as good as the main guy, Axe Battler, but it's still pretty solid, and if you're going to collect the set, it's definitely good enough. Like, there's no reason not to get it, unless any of those things really bothered you, but as far as I can tell, they're not that big of a deal. So I'm going to give this one an overall rating of 8 out of 10. All of the accessories, lots of paint, it is well articulated even though it's finicky and annoying. You can pose it fairly well, and it does look good overall. So yeah, I'm very pleased with these figures. I'm very happy to get them. Like, I never played the game a lot, but I loved it. So for me, this batch of figures is a shoo-in. I like them, and I think you should get them too if you're at least a little bit inclined. They're super fun, and I think you'll like them. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down, and if you haven't subscribed, you should. I have new videos almost every single day, and thousands already on the channel, so make sure you come back for all of that, and in the meantime, keep collecting.